Let me start by telling you why I wanted to make this video in the first place, and then I'll walk you through step by step on how I got to this point with my video production business and as a filmmaker. Basically, I keep seeing over and over again on YouTube the latest camera unboxing, which camera you should buy, what cinematic technique you should be using. And I'm guilty of this myself. It's almost impossible on YouTube to get any message across in the world of filmmaking if you're not creating those kind of videos. But I feel like those channels missed the point as far as creating content that helps filmmakers make money. Things that filmmakers need to know to create a successful business, to become entrepreneurs. So I take the time to do those types of videos, but I also take the time to make videos just like this one to help people that are struggling in the path of making money as a filmmaker and sustaining their lifestyle, or creating a more successful video production company where they could grow a team. That's really one of my main focus with this channel, and that's why I wanted to make this video, to walk you through exactly the way I was struggling and what clicked, the thing that made me figure out exactly how to turn my videography or filmmaking skills into a successful business when I was just struggling as a freelancer. Now let me start here quickly by my backstory on how I got here, and I took some notes here so I don't miss a point. But basically, I graduated film school in Chicago back in 2007. And when I was going to film school, they taught you everything about being an actual filmmaker, right? If you moved to LA and worked for some kind of a studio system, they taught you those kind of things, right? How to maybe be a grip or how to work in the art department, things like that. And then they also taught you how to become a director. That was my concentration in cinematography and directing. So they taught you all that. But they did not teach me anything about what to do to make money when I graduated film school. So I graduated film school and I thought the path was create a documentary or some sort of film that you could afford to make. Short film or documentary was the path. Get it to Sundance, you get discovered, you get flown to LA, you write your next movie, and that's kind of the path that everybody was thinking was the path back then. But what I did was follow that path at first, right? I made a documentary. It didn't come out all the way till 2016. My first feature-length documentary. It took me 8 years to make, but it still didn't help me in that path. So in the meantime, what I did was I tried the first few years while I was making that documentary to try to network, right? I would go to all the networking events, meet all the filmmakers I could, and then promote myself first as a PA, then as an AC, then as a camera operator. I bought a couple of cameras using a credit card, so then I could promote myself as the guy that could just do everything for you, from shooting to editing to even producing and writing. So I tried to do that for a few years. But the main problem I found with that was it was very inconsistent. I would get a job sometimes, right? That would be like 2 weeks of work, and then I wouldn't work for another week. Then I would get a one-off job here. And I was also doing lots of different things. So I wasn't promoting myself as one thing. I was a PA, but then when I was a PA on a job, I would tell them, hey, I'm a camera operator, or I'm a DP, or I'm a director. And that's not something you should do at all. Whatever your job is, you should just be happy having that job, or try to do something else entirely in the same profession, right? There's plenty of paths. But if you don't clearly tell people what you're doing, it's really hard to get consistent work. If you don't like being a PA anymore, maybe get enough experience where you feel comfortable doing something else and quit the PA jobs. You have to always evolve in that freelancing aspect that I was doing. So I did do that pretty successfully as far as switching. So I went from PA to AC to camera operator to DP. And to DP, I mean, I was still doing a lot of corporate jobs and things that I don't do anymore. Basically, whatever I could get my hands on, I would do that job. But then this is what happened, and this is where everything changed for me. Because as busy as I was, and I was working a ton of hours, I was getting plenty of work, I still was having a hard time making enough money to sustain a decent lifestyle, right? Because whatever I was making, I was buying gear. I was using that gear to write off against my income, but I thought I had to keep buying gear to be relevant. So even though I was making decent money, I was spending so much money on gear just to keep up. And I did this for year after year after year. And I wasn't taking enough money home, right? Between health insurance, right? You pay for your whole health insurance, taxes, the gear I was buying, my take-home pay was kind of really low if you really think about what you get from working a job that gives you benefits and doesn't have that much taxes compared to a self-employed person. At this point, I decided to make a video production company because everybody I met in the industry that seemed to be successful were the people running video production companies, not people freelancing. The people freelancing were all in the same boat I was. Even the ones that were 30 years in the business, they were always spending most of their money on gear and always fighting to get the next job. And they were just burnt out. So seeing people, this is when I was in my early 20s, right? Seeing people in their 40s and 50s and 60s still in the same boat where I was when I was just starting out, always fighting for the next job or overworking themselves, made me think about a different path, and that was a path of making a video production company. So only 2-3 years into my career, I created a video production company. But by video production company, that's really all it was the name video production company, but it was just me billing through another name, right? I was still freelancing, that's all I was doing. I did have my own clients that I would just do everything for, but I was doing it as a freelance rate, basically. In my head, I was like, okay, so what's my day rate? What's my editing billable hour? How much should I charge for pre-production? Oh, this took me 2 hours. I'll charge for 2 hours worth of time. And then I would put that together and then I would bill clients that much, which ended up just being the same I was making as a freelancer. I wasn't thinking about really how a video production company should look. But this is what everybody ended up doing that I kept meeting. They weren't really running a video production company. They were freelancing under a different name. That's really all they were doing. So I was like, okay, this is not working. What else can I do? There was a moment that really things changed for me. I was working for this client that were hiring me to take care of all their production work. And I kept doing work and I kept doing work and I kept sending invoices and the invoices didn't get paid. Eventually, I got to a point where 1 month I could not pay rent because they were like a few months late on paying me. And I just had kind of like a breaking point that this is just not going to work. And to me, in my mind, getting a job outside of production was just not even an option. So I wasn't even gonna look for a job outside. But I had to figure out, what do I have to do so this is just not my life? I just felt like this is going to be the same case year after year. I literally met people in their 50s that had to have their mom co-sign on a house for them because of this same perpetual boat of buying gear, working nonstop, buying more gear the next year, working nonstop. It just never ended. So this is what I did exactly, and this is hopefully something that could make you change your mindset about how this all works in the world of filmmaking and video production. I had taken some marketing classes in college, so I knew there was something there with advertising and marketing that I wasn't really figuring it out, right? I was just doing networking and word of mouth, and that's how I was getting every single job. A lot of people do this, and they do get to a point where they're super busy without ever figuring out what I'm about to teach you. But this is why this really changed everything for me. So I started doing some research. I literally Googled, how do you get clients as a small business? I think that's somewhere around the line of what I was looking up. And there were a ton of things that would come up, right? Because you could get clients as a small business in like 100 different ways. But I researched this 12 hours a day. Every day I wasn't on a shoot. I would just research, take notes, research. I became really obsessive. This is back in 2012, by the way. And I came across back then, which is still relevant to this day, search engine optimization. So I had a website, right? I had a website a few years before that I kept optimizing and making better. But the website wasn't really getting found. The website was like, you would make a business card, give it to people, they go on your website, see your portfolio, and your portfolio was just random shots of everything you shot put together in a 2-minute thing called the demo reel, right? To this day, people still do it. I still do it. But when I came across SEO, this is basically a different approach I started taking. And this is just how I started making things work for me. Basically, this is how it all worked. You optimize a website based on search engine optimization. And I use a ton of different techniques to do this. So you could look this up on your own, how search engine optimization works. But my goal was to rank for video production company, for that term video production company. So I spent months figuring out exactly how to do that. So term video production and video production company where the goals I was trying to get my website to rank for on Google. That's search engine optimization. I do it with YouTube now, but basically works the same way to this day. Then after months of doing this, I was able to rank on the first page of Google for that term in my town, in Chicago, basically. And then suddenly I got calls. I had a website I built with a landing page, a very specific call to action page, basically. Then people found me on Google. They clicked, they found my landing page where I showed them a demo reel or what I did. They called, I picked up, and I tried to basically tell them how I could help them based on whatever they needed. Now, this was really mind-blowing because I was getting calls every single day with this method, and it completely shifted things for me. Now, it wasn't sustainable because it was based on Google, and if they decided to push me down the ranking, which they did eventually, I would lose those calls. So this was the very first step. I literally looked up how to do marketing for a small business, which video production was mine. I figured out only one path. Now I apply, multiple different paths, and things have changed. Now I know advertising inside and out, so I don't have to rely on organic search on Google. I know how to use social media content the right way, so I start applying that. Ton of other stuff that I'm gonna make videos about coming up. But right then, once that started happening, what happened for me was I no longer relied on word of mouth. Calls came in, I closed sales, and a lot of those sales became repeating clients. So at that point, I was making no more than, I think the year before, maybe $62,000 a year, which again, a lot of that was going back into my video production freelance world in gear. I would just keep buying gear, lights, audio, whatever I could buy with the money I had left over. So I actually probably took home far less than that, maybe half of that. So it was really a struggle for me. But once I figured that out, literally that year, in that few months even, when I started figuring out search engine optimization, I was sending out 7 figures in proposals to different companies that were asking me for video. And from that, I was closing a good portion of that because at the time, I didn't really figure out how to close deals the right way. So I was under betting and I was getting a lot of jobs, but then I ended up getting overwhelmingly busy. But that's a whole different story. Right now, this basically figuring this out took me from waiting for my next job, struggling and kind of living paycheck to paycheck as a freelancer, to actually having a video production company that ended up getting results and ended up getting clients. And because of this, I was no longer in that same shoe. That year, I made 6 times more money than the previous year. And I've never had a year that was backwards from that year. So every year after that, you just kind of grow and build on that as you learn other marketing methods. So my whole point with this video is, if you're struggling as a videographer, as a freelancer, you really need to figure out marketing and creating a system that could bring you clients. Again, it could be a number of different things. This was just search engine optimization, basically showing up for different keywords on Google. But that's an old school technique. There's plenty of better ways that I cover, but that's still relevant if you want to learn more about that on your own. So hopefully this was valuable to you. I am making an entire course on this process as well. So if you want to learn some of those techniques that I've applied over the years, I will put those in a very linear course. If you want to be notified when that's released, make sure you click the link below and give me your email so I could send you an email once that is up. So hopefully you took some value from this. Let me know in the comment section if this type of content is valuable or you rather see me make camera reviews. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.